morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be dialing in from around the world. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar, Policy Administration Systems, Market Overview and Trends. I'm Michaela Bernier, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. Before we begin, I just want to cover a few quick housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be recorded, and a link to view the recording on demand will be available after the session. Please feel free to submit your questions using the questions feature located in the GoToWebinar toolbar to the right of your screen, and Martina and Martin will address them during the session. I'll now turn the mic over to Martina Conlon to introduce herself and jump into the content. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed today's webinar.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Martina Conlon, and I lead the P&C practice here at IT-Nevarica. And today we are here to go through the most recent report on policy admin systems for the P&C space and give a little bit of an overview on market trends, approaches, lessons learned, those types of things, and some information on vendor selection best practices. As I mentioned, I'm with IT-Nevarica, and I've been with IT-Nevarica for about 13 years. Prior to that, I was with Arbella Insurance, where I led application development, data, and everything except for infrastructure through a number of years. And before that, I worked for a number of technology and consulting firms, always in the insurance vertical. Martin, do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Martin Higgins. I'm a senior principal with IT-Nevarica. I've been with IT-Nevarica for about 5 years, and I've been in the insurance industry for about 25 years or so. Most of it spent focused on property and casualty, and I've spent a good amount of time replacing core systems as well in a number of different roles, as well as building core systems. So looking forward to the conversation today.
Great. We can go to the next slide, please. So before we go into the policy admin systems, I'd like to review a little bit about what insurers are focusing on in 2023. And these are a few slides from our 2023 Budgets and Projects report that really focuses on how much money insurers are spending, what they're spending their money on, and what their priorities are. So we can see in this diagram that the IT spending is rising slightly year over year for the last 2 years. We evaluate IT spending as the IT expense ratio, which is the amount spent on IT as a percentage of the annual premium. And so we see that overall, for insurers in general in the United States, 4.2% of their direct written premium isn't being invested in their IT budget. Next slide, please. When we look at a little more clearly down to P&C insurers, we're seeing that they are also spending slightly more on IT in 2023. And if you look on the left, we have the large insurers, and on the right, we have mid-size insurers. In our definition, a mid-size insurer is under $1 billion in direct written premium. A large insurer is over $1 billion in direct written premium. And so we can see there in the black line in the middle that the average amount that will be invested in the IT budget for mid-size insurers for 2023 is about 4.7%. But the range goes all the way up to 8.5% and down to 1.5%. When we look at larger insurers, there is an increase also this year where the average investment is about 4% of direct written premium in IT. But that also goes up to 7% and down to as low as 1.3%. We do find that insurers that are investing more heavily during certain years are often in the middle of transformations or just embarking or planning a transformation. Next slide, please.
I will just add to that that when you look at the top end, it is oftentimes, as Martina said, it will be transformation of core systems, which we'll be talking about during this webinar. On the bottom end, when you look at those insurers that are spending 1%, 1.5%, typically those insurers are going to be running legacy systems that are essentially fixed costs. So they're not paying they're not in the middle of a transformation, and they may not be spending externally on core administration functionality at all. So typically those are investing less in their technology overall.